Tuesdays to accommodate staff availability to attend.
And so you,
Well, I think I
okay.
said at the last meeting, I'd commit to almost anything except February 27th, 28th, and 29th, I will not be here.
So we're back to, that's what you initially wanted to do.
It remains my recommendation.
Okay, okay, all right. So we've got so many ideas flying around. Ron likes the thought of having representatives come.
Which they can still do. We're not prohibiting that. You know, so what I'm saying is go close to where the faculty and staff are. Meet in the middle. If representatives want to, if we want to have the representatives collect data and aggregate it, that's fine. But if people want to come and speak individually, we should encourage that.
Okay, Tanya, you haven't chimed in on this yet. What's your
We asked the people on the elevator.
viewpoint?
I'm good with either. I kind of like going to them. I mean, I would be happy to do TC, Roseman Elementary, Roseman Middle, and Roseman High School. I would be happy to go to their staff meetings and take notes.
But I think staff meetings is, we've decided is
Oh.
not the best place to do it because they have so many other
They have
things on
other
their
things,
agenda.
yeah.
But at the same time, they would all be there.
They,
I mean, if we could let
I
them know
will-
ahead of time that we were coming and they could have their questions, kind of what they want to, or comments that they want to say.
I won't speak for all of them, but I will say that they would probably think this is important enough to be the primary thing at the staff meeting.
Okay.
Sorry, I just added one more.
Well, that's just another suggestion, which is fine. The only problem I see with that is all their staff meetings are on the same day.
Most of them.
Most of them are on the same day, so you can't be 4 places at the same time.
Well, if we could do Roseman Middle and Roseman High, if they would agree to do theirs. Possibly, if they could do that first and then disperse. Are theirs all on the same day, do you know, or are some of them on Tuesday or
I think you
Most
said
of them
generally
are
Monday or
Mondays and
Tuesday.
on Monday?
Most of them are, and they're not always every week either.
So February 20th is a workday. Correct?
Is that President's Day, Dr. Weaver?
Well, the 17th is the holiday. The teacher workday is the 20th, right?
We,
Is that required?
the,
Correct.
The 17th
The 20th.
or the 20th?
The 17th is a remote learning day.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's an educational day. And
February 20th is listed as a teacher workday.
is a required teacher workday.
We have 9 campuses and 8 hours of workday. I don't know why we couldn't go to every single one of the campuses in one day, since
Dr. Weaver,
everybody
how-
will be working.
Right.
how many years out of the last 20 have we had President's Day off?
We've had it in every calendar, and I think, we've maybe stuck to a normal schedule 2 or 3 times since I've been in the county. It was just one of those first work days that go away if we have inclement weather, but, the 17th is a remote learning day, and we do synchronous learning, for the first half of that day, that's Friday, the 17th, and Monday, the 20th, is a required teacher workday. Not for teacher assistants, that's not one of the teacher assistants' days, but it is for our teachers.
And is that day fully packed, as far as we know, for, Would-
It is not a day for, no, I take that back. It is one of the days for letters training for elementary staff. So all of your elementary staff will be doing state-required letters, professional development on the 20th.
You also have a regular board meeting that evening.
yeah, we do.
Right, I would interpret work day as that's days that the teachers are doing things in their classroom and maybe having meetings between groups that goes on, and we would have to, they would have to know we were coming and give us time first or whenever, but it's not just teachers sitting in a, normally it's not just teachers sitting in the classroom by herself grading or something. There's other things going on.
And this year's a little different with that required letters training for elementary staff. So that's one of the days is indicated on the calendar for elementary staff professional development.
And how long is that staff development period take?
It is
Is it
a
a-
half day
Okay,
for them. A half day of engagement and then a half day of implementation.
so it's a,
They are online with NCDPI instructors for half the day, and then they leave that to go implement what they learned in the professional development activity.
Mr. Campbell?
Mr. Winter, your idea of geographically covering the county, you said Brevard, Rosman, Davidson River.
so Pisgah Forest, Davidson River being the northern half of the northern portion of the county. Brevard Middle, Brevard Elementary, Brevard High being the central part of the county, and then Rosman Elementary, Rosman Middle, Rosman, and TC Henderson being the southern part of the county.
Would TC Henderson, so, you know, one thought is to use this representative model and exactly what you said and say, okay, we are going to have, and I'll just throw this out for discussion, we're going to have 5 meetings. We're going to have them at Brevard, Rosman, Pisgah Forest, Davidson River, and TC Henderson. I don't know if geographically that works or not.
Well,
but if it
Pisgah
does-
Forest and Davidson River are next door to each other.
Right, so they could just be one. So now you're down to 4 locations.
Well, I
And
was-
you could say, we are going to ask that representatives come to those meetings and bring with you the issues, characteristics, traits from your school, and any teacher who would also like to personally come to let representatives of the board know what they're concerned about. We welcome anyone to come. So now you're down to 4 meetings to cover your entire staff. Now you can add community meetings for parents and any community centers you feel like you need to go to. But you're starting with 4 meetings that you need to cover.
Okay, what are the 4 meetings again? Davidson River and Pisgah Forest.
Brevard, at Brevard High School, Rosman High School, Pisgah Forest, and TC Henderson. Those 4 locations. No? Which
Well, you left
did
out
not like?
Brevard Middle, Brevard Elementary?
No, that,
They would be
They would be asked to come to Brevard
our
High School.
high school.
I don't we think we
My
separated.
prediction is when they're in their cars, they'll go someplace else.
Well, no, you're asking for representatives to come, not everyone. Again, this is that representative model with Mr. Wiener's point that also staff would be told if any staff member feels strongly about personally being able to convey it, they would do
Well, I'm
it.
not trying to be difficult, but that, to me, defeats the purpose of being as open as you can to everybody speaking to us. My opinion.
What were the 4 places again?
I was proposing 3 locations.
3, that's what I thought.
You were proposing Brevard, Rosman, and TC?
And
No.
Pisgah Forest.
Pisgah Forest.
Oh, okay. Pisgah Forest, gotcha.
Okay, so we've got all different places. So let's see if we can't narrow this part down. And then because we've got to move on to the community and opportunity for parents. So Chris has proposed 3 places for a meeting. Tanya thinks we should go to all schools.
I'd say 3, using the representative model, but emphasizing that anyone may come and speak if they wish.
Kimsey is
I'd say all the schools.
all the schools. And did your idea include the representative idea, and then everybody come who wanted to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if you have a vested interest in presenting a topic, you should show up. If you want to pass your information on through a representative body, feel free to do that. But be it, do so at your own risk, because data
Right.
gets filtered.
Right, I understand, but you would be, you would be okay with that model for those 3 meetings?
It's an open invitation.
Okay, but at the same time, we would ask the principals to gather their faculty and staff to provide them information that then they could come to these meetings and bring to us if their staff for some reason couldn't attend.
Correct. And I'd also remind the staff that they're welcome to, we have email addresses, so they're welcome to submit their comments to us by email.
Okay.
They can find us in the directory, so.
Okay. So I would be okay with that too, with the 3 meetings and the principals gathering information from staff, bringing that with an open invitation to any other staff member that would want.
And obviously, if you're unable to attend the meeting in your area, you're largely.
Absolutely.
You can come to the other meeting as
Sure.
you're
And
available.
if you want to attend all 3, you're welcome to do that.
If you have a dog,
Dr. Weaver?
Just to clarify, the training for elementary staff on February the 20th is from 12:30 to 3:30. So it's an afternoon training session only. There's nothing in the morning on February the 20th.
All right, let me also say one other thing real quick as you're starting to think about this. This is the majority view of the board. You can also combine one of these meetings and/or a community meeting with parents with a regular board meeting.
Let's
Trying
leave these
to
faculty
again-
meetings separate.
yes.
Well, I think, well,
These-
you could, but you
Yeah,
could
these
keep
need
them
to be separate.
Yeah.
Right,
And then we'll
regular
talk about
meetings are separate.
combining.
When I mean convene, you would actually do it like an hour or two before the board meeting, but yeah,
Right.
just
I
an
think
option.
these meetings, now, so the next
Standalone, okay.
question would be,
So Tani, in light of the information Dr. Weaver shared with us, I would propose then that we would do the elementary schools in the morning and open that up to all the elementary schools and then do an afternoon session for the high schools.
so you're wanting to try to do this on the 20th?
I'd like to get this, I'd like to be able to facilitate the entire faculty, staff, teachers' assistants who obviously are not on duty that day, but may have availability to come to that facility.
Okay, before we go any further, I think we should think, how would staff respond to that thought for their,
I don't know that staff would be opposed to that. Teacher assistants could get a little tricky because if they're not scheduled to work that day and they come in for that, it could be viewed as, I don't know. I'll have to defer to the legal expert on that. There's
Well,
not-
would a teacher assistant be on the clock if they came to an after-school meeting to give input?
Yes,
They would be on the clock at that point. I mean, are they normally on the clock for how long after the kids leave,
well,
the bell rings?
they don't come to the meetings. They're done at 3, it depends on the school. We have varying levels of TAs and it depends on the school. But if they are there till 3:30, they're there till 3:30. If they're called into a meeting, then they're on the clock.
And realistically, how early in the afternoon could an elementary school have this kind of a meeting? Realistically, got to load the buses, got to make sure.
Right, well, and you're talking about on that work day, you would be doing it in the morning. So
Oh,
you would be asking TAs to come in the morning on a day that they're not supposed to come in.
But if it was to
Not
be in the
required to
afternoon,
come in.
by comparison, if it was to be in the afternoon, how early could you
We
logistically have a meeting like this? Not, don't worry about TAs. 30?
3:30.
So TAs are going to be off the clock if you tried to do it after school too. And again, this is an opportunity to, now you at the board could say, we'll pay you to come in and give us input, but this is a listening session.
I wouldn't want to establish that precedent.
I think it would be unfair to ask them to come in on a day they were supposed to be off, when if we had it at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, they would just be there.
And stick around.
Okay.
Yeah.
To move us forward,
Oh, it's
I would move that we go with Chris's model of 3 meetings with representational modeling. Anyone else may attend if they wish, or they may submit comments via email.
Or by regular mail. Or just send it with somebody, a printed
Correct.
copy.
Do we need, okay, when are we gonna do that?
Well, let's get the model, and then we'll get the date.
Well, I think the date makes sense, that we've got staff on payroll, they're available, it's a workday. You know, if we were to do it in the evening, that would be even more arduous on them. So,
But I don't think we should ask teachers' assistants to come to school on that day.
we're availing a meeting to hear their input. We're not asking them to come, we're availing them to come. We're making a forum. We're not demanding their presence, just as we're not demanding the presence of any teacher. We're saying, we are here to hear you.
Okay,
And I would think that many of them would want to come give input, you know. I don't want us to exclude any of them.
Correct.
okay, but we have had interpretations in the past regarding what fair labor standards or whatever, that if a teacher assistant is back in the building for whatever reason, beyond their normal work hours, that they are due compensation for that.
Legally, I would not be concerned at all about this model because you would clearly communicate what Mr. Weiner has said is this is an off-the-clock opportunity for you to come give input and to avail yourself. There are other ways. If you don't want to come to school without getting paid,
Okay.
you can go to a representative, you can send an email.
You can come to a board meeting
So,
and present your
I'm not
information during
concerned
public
about
comment.
that as long as it's
Okay.
clear that this is not a work activity. This is just an opportunity for you to give input. if you wanted
I really think that we need to treat the model and the date as two separate issues. Let's agree on a model, then we can agree on a date.
Right.
So, Madam Chair, you do have a motion for this model if you wanted to entertain a second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been,
You better, it's your model.
motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the model for the faculty and staff meetings, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no.
No.
That would pass 4-1. Now, let's see if we can determine when we're gonna do the meetings. So I think there's only two options, really. Well, one option having other dates with it. We'll do it on the 20th, or we do it in the afternoons. And I don't know that we have those dates in front of us at this moment.
I think you would come up with those dates if you're doing it after school.
Well, I posted that I can make myself available to these meetings on a Monday afternoon beginning at 4 o'clock. My preference would be to do all of the meetings on the 20th.
I can do that for any Monday except the 27th of February.
And we're doing Pisgah Forest and Davidson River, Rosman schools, and Brevard schools. Just so I get it straight.
And as Chris mentioned, we only really need one board member there and someone to take notes.
Correct.
Do not rely on me to take notes.
So what day was Pigeon?
So the question is, we haven't picked a date yet.
Okay.
Question is, do we want to do it? I don't think we can do it on the 20th if we're going to combine all the schools.
I don't think so either.
How are we going to,
Actually, it might be good to divide it up with no more than two board members attending, because then it does not have to be noticed as a meeting, and faculty may actually like that it's not a public meeting, and because the board member is just there to listen, it's really the note taker who's going to bring it back to the full board. So you could divide and conquer these three sites by having no more than two board members attend.
That would be my preference.
and what if we have more than two that want to attend?
Then we have to notice it.
You'll have
Keep
to
in
notice it
mind
as-
that if you, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's up to the board, but if you decide, you're gonna have community meetings, but if you are going to solicit input from faculty and staff, if you have more than two members there, then it is open to more than faculty and staff.
Correct.
You'd have to notice it as a public meeting if three of you were there,
Right.
three or more. So there's,
And we may need to do that anyway, just because more than two may show up. Maybe before we pick the dates, we should go on and see how many community meetings we're gonna have. Can't talk.
Okay.
For the purpose of conversation, I'm gonna not make a motion, but just offer the thought of having community meetings at Balsam Grove, Lake Talksaway, Little River, and Mary Jenkins Center here.
The river and what?
The Mary Jenkins Center here in town. And then have a community meeting at Rosman High School and Brevard High School. That's 7 community/parent meetings.
What about Balsam Grove?
I said Balsam Grove, Lake Talksaway, Little River.
I missed those. I missed Balsam Grove.
Now, that's just to get the conversation started.
Right.
I think we have seen in the past for other meetings we've had on other topics. This is a school issue, and I think people are willing to come to the schools to discuss it with us.
Okay, so are you saying that we would have 3 school meetings for parents in addition to the 3 school meetings for staff?
Yes.
And the community meetings?
Have a community, that would make 7 more meetings.
So
7 more
A
meetings.
total of 10.
So Balsam Grove, Toxaway, Rosamond, Brevard, Little River, Mary Jenkins, and,
That was it.
I'm getting
because you said,
You
you
said
got 7,
Said
that's
7,
6.
I can't count.
Okay.
Sorry, it's getting late.
You had 2 of us over here confused.
Sorry.
Cedar Mill.
And he also mentioned Duns Rock and,
I'm concerned that that we don't have any representation up on the 276 side of the county.
Conisty area up there.
I know a lot of kids from up there.
And again, I will
That's
just
right.
offer that you could combine Rosman and Brevard with a board meeting and just ask folks to come early. You could, or you could make that work. You could try to reduce your business meeting to the bare minimum and leave significant time for community input on the superintendent search. Just trying to help out with your calendars. And not all of you would need to attend all of the community centers, because again, you'd have a note taker. So you could divide and conquer in attending these community centers as well. And it almost sounds like you should probably decide the meetings you're going to have, and then have maybe folks give Ms. Hunter the meetings they think they can attend. And you wouldn't have to do that tonight, obviously. You could email your availability for all these meetings once you've decided what meetings you're gonna have.
So to that list that I mentioned, Chris wanted to add that 7th one, so I wouldn't be so far off with my,
What was the 7th with Chris? I've only got 6 down here.
Duns Rock, Cedar Mountain.
would it be easier to use the community centers, or would it be easier to use, I know you mentioned it being small, but TC Henderson? I mean, you've got,
I
The-
think that,
you know, the Christmas programs,
Do the gym.
you know.
I think if it's a school, I mean, this is about our schools, and I think people would be willing and happy to come to the schools. But that's just what I think.
I agree.
So instead of doing the Lake Talksaway, do TC Henderson?
Duns Rock.
I think so.
Is that what?
I think people would come.
No.
So,
And if, you know, not everybody's gonna come,
sure.
so it should be
So
big enough.
replace Lake Talksaway with TC Henderson.
That'd probably work.
So with that thought, no, never.
Do you think
won't
Balsam
say that.
Grove would come down to TC, or do you think they would come down to Rosman?
I think we owe it to them to go.
to Balsam?
So if we make the decision on the sites, then before we pick the dates, or no, we do want to pick the dates? Do we want to give Jenny our availabilities?
I kind of like Mr. Kivanemi's approach of see if the board agrees to this many additional meetings and then move to dates. Because now you know how many meetings you've got to cover. And again, I know I'm a broken record, but your big community meetings of Rosman and Brevard, if you want to combine those with meetings you already have on the schedule,
Which,
I've seen for your calendars. Now, you may want to make it completely separate, but then you've got to add your board meetings. So now, instead of 10 meetings in a month, you've got 14 meetings in a month, or 13 meetings in a
but
month.
we want to finish
So
these in,
remember, your board meetings are on top of all of
right, and we want to finish this in February.
Correct.
So we only really have one, the 20th would be the only meeting that we could combine.
Which I would support combining that with Brevard High.
Is that February 20th?
February
That
20th.
matters, because that's the date you're also wanting to cover schools, but that
Correct.
could be a day that you do schools and a bigger community meeting
If-
and a board meeting.
If I could, one thing you might want to think about,
And if it snows,
well, yes, but 10
There
days
you
out,
go.
10 days out, we're looking good right now. Because I watch that all the time. Back to
This one?
the point that Mr. Weiner made
The
about the faculty and staff. It's certainly up to the board, but if you're gonna have the community meetings and then you're wanting to have faculty and staff, I suspect that if you might be more efficient on faculty and staff to go no more than 2. Because if you have 3 or more, then it turns into a community meeting, and faculty and staff probably won't say anything.
I would concur. And
Okay.
Dunn's wrong.
So I move that we have the following 7 meetings: Balsam Grove, TC Henderson, Rosman, Brevard High, Little River, Mary Jenkins, and Dunn's Rock, with the Brevard High meeting being co-joined to our February 20th board meeting, and that the faculty meetings be attended by no more than 2 board members during the February 20 workday. It's a big motion.
got it.
Thank you, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Now, time for discussion.
I see no
My-
reason, I see no reason to limit it to 2 people. We don't have to sit together or any of that kind of thing.
No, if 3 of us are going to be there, it has to be advertised and it has to be open to the public, even if we don't sit together, since it's.
Only for the, staff meetings.
Correct.
Correct.
Those other meetings,
No, the other meetings too. If you are at the Balsam Grove Center and 3 of you are going to
Right.
attend, it would also have to be.
but it's a community meeting anyway.
Anyway, right.
Right.
So there's really no
those should be
problem.
noticed.
Those should be noticed,
Correct.
so that as many of us as want to come, can come.
Gotcha.
The meetings at the, schools, 2 board members, simply to keep it from being an open.
Correct. That was my motion.
Let's advertise them. We're gonna advertise them anyway. We're not gonna just decide this in here and not put some advertisement out of somewhere or other.
No, I think the discussion you're having right now is that the faculty meetings, that you're just there, to listen, and the concern that if it's open to the media and others, faculty members might not feel as comfortable
It's true.
being forthcoming, so you're just trying to balance that. And this information is gonna come back to the board. It's really the note taker who's there to gather this information from the representatives.
And if it makes it easy on anybody, I will attend all of those meetings.
On the 20th, or all of them all.
All of them on the 20th,
Okay.
all 4 meetings
My
on the 20th.
concern on the 20th for the schools meetings is, can the, staff leave their school to go and attend this meeting on the workday when I'm sure they already have things
And they have
planned?
probably decided to do things at their schools to work day. So, like I said, they're gonna get in their cars and go somewhere else. I don't think that's,
I think it's a
don't
good
think that's a
idea.
good idea.
I think the idea's good. That's my concern. I'm not a teacher, so I can't, I'm just raising the concern. And if I could get some input from Dr. McDarris or Dr. Weaver,
Are we
or,
just doing the elementary schools that morning, or are we doing all?
well, Chris's motion was to do them all the schools in that day.
Well, no, just 3 sites.
3
And that
Three.
passed. You've already voted to own, so far
Right, but
tonight, you've only
his
voted
last
to do
motion
3.
included,
Like,
No, his last motion included the community centers, but the question was
and
schools.
doing that, those schools on the 20th,
Correct.
Correct.
He included
But I
that in
think-
there.
Right, but I think Ms. Dalton was asking about how many elementary schools are you gonna visit, and the answer to that question is only Pisgah Forest. That's it.
Because we're doing the clusters, Rosamond cluster.
So we would
Brevard
have to
cluster,
ask,
Pisgah Forest cluster.
they're not gonna wanna leave.
so that's my concern. So you're gonna be asking the people at Rosamond Elementary to come to Rosamond High School, or you're gonna be asking the people at Rosamond High School to be coming to Rosamond
Well,
Elementary, however.
Here would be a variable to think about. How long are you gonna be collecting the comments? Because if your meeting's gonna last, say, an hour and a half, approximately, that's just thrown out. If your meeting's gonna, say, 90 minutes, and you wanna give people a chance to talk, I'm talking about just the faculty and staff one right now. You might, the elementary cannot do it in the afternoon, so what you may want to do is, you may want to group yourselves so that you're at a couple of places at the same time.
Correct.
In other words,
I understand.
okay,
So the idea would be to
Chris
do.
can't attend all those meetings if we do that, though.
Right, I'm just, well, what we could do is have 3 separate meetings all in the morning on the 20th for an hour and a half.
and you give yourself travel time.
That means you're gonna have to drag the staff from other schools to one school and cut into their planning and whatever other work they're gonna do that day.
I'm certain they'd be happier to do it than to come at 6 o'clock in the evening
That's
or
not true, Chris.
on the weekend.
That's not true.
I
Most
think
teachers,
that would be
are
true.
gonna have stuff planned to do that day in their classroom. And then, I believe Brian said there's some kind of a training thing or something that's gonna take up half a day. So that half a day is out. Now we're gonna chop out another 90 minutes for us, and they're gonna have very little time left.
The
to
other
do.
option
far.
would be for travel time and input,
You got the travel time.
I'm just
That's-
throwing in an option. One option could be, you have 4 elementary schools. You could have one, you could divide up, there's 5 of you. It would mean that somebody would be a single person, but no more than 1 or 2, and you could hit all 4 elementary schools in the morning. It's just that not everybody would be at all 4 elementary schools, and the note taker would provide the information. Then in the afternoon, the same effect. You could do 221, Davidson River, Brevard High School, and Rosamond High School. And in the middle schools, in the middle of the day, possibly one, you could do it that way, because you gotta think about it. I'm just throwing this out. You just gotta think about it. You can have the middle schools come to the high schools, and so in the mornings, you could do all 4 elementary, and in the afternoons, you do the middle and high.
Well, the problem is they gotta travel. I could see Rosamond High and Rosamond Middle doing it together, cause they don't have to travel there, right there.
No, if we do all the elementary schools, we will go to them, correct?
That's what that was just a suggestion, yes.
I like that. I'll do TC Henderson.
So I think we've already voted
Come on, there. I'll
to
do
do this joint.
Again, this is your
So
process.
we're gonna have
So
to change
yes,
that.
you voted, but yes, you can change. I mean, this is your process. You have to feel good about it. And this is the hard part of this, because y'all are trying to be accommodating, but there's only so much time. So this is time well spent.
I
to
like
conclude
that
this.
because they're not having to leave to drive. We can go to them, knock it out. It may not take an hour and a half.
Right, well, and
Right,
I was
you know.
just saying,
That's
if you do that, and you will decide who's gonna go where, but I was gonna say, for example, Ms. Dalton goes to TC Henderson. Mr. Weiner goes to Rosamond Elementary. Ron goes to Pisgah Forest. Tawny and Kimsey go to Brevard. I'm just saying, you could do that, and then in the afternoon, one of you go to Davidson River, 2 of you to Rosamond Middle and High, and 2 of you to Brevard High. that's just, that, it's your, it's your process. I'm just trying to throw out options.
We still need to get Brevard Middle in there.
Well, I was gonna put Brevard Middle at Brevard High.
But Kimsey's concern is people moving between facilities, so.
I think if you are interested in giving input on a future superintendent, that a 5-minute drive from Brevard Middle to Brevard High is not an hindrance to doing that.
Okay, so right now, we actually have a motion on the floor,
Correct.
which I can't remember all of it. It was a long one.
Well, that motion, you would want to see if it has a second, but the way I understood that
I think
motion.
Tanya seconded.
Tanya seconded.
Okay, it does have a second, is again only going to 3 schools
Correct.
Then I unsecond.
and all on the 20th.
No, we're gonna vote. You can vote against.
All right, so if so it would be only going to the 3 schools, doing them all on the 20th, also combining your Brevard community meeting with your regular board meeting on the night of the 20th, and no more than 2 board members at each school. So you might, since you have a motion in a second, unless both of you want to withdraw it, you might just want to go ahead and vote on it so you know whether that has support or not.
Okay, so the motion has been made and seconded.
And
All
you
those-
can vote against your own motion, Ms. Dalton.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no.
No,
No.
So we're back to square
So
one.
we're back to square, yeah.
I think we've forgotten what we're trying to do, and that's to give people a chance to speak to us and not ride around in their cars and that sort of thing, go to different places.
I have one.
We should go to them. That's the way you get people to come to the meeting, not ask them to do it. But whatever.
I need to look at my work schedule before I can determine how much I can guarantee I can attend on the 20th. I know I can do some of it, but
It's probably a state holiday, isn't it?
no, I'm not.
No, not for all state employees, okay.
Ms. Dalton, were you talking about going to each of the elementary schools on the 20th or just on days that might work with their schedules?
If possible, on the 20th.
On the 20th, so to cover as many schools on the
If we could
20th as
just-
possible.
Knock them out that day, that would be.
That's why I said that scenario where
Okay.
Yeah.
they're basically going to pick a school in the morning and a school in the afternoon.
Because what you could ask your superintendent to do is come up with the calendar of dates and times and send it to you. And then you could let Ms. Hunter know what your availability is to attend those meetings based on that calendar.
Could we ask the superintendent to get in touch with the schools and see
Yes.
what time it would be convenient on the 20th for us to come?
Right. Let him do the legwork, that's exactly right. And to come up with a proposed calendar that you could then fill in who's gonna go.
The elementary is gonna be in the morning, so that part's,
So just whatever time is, and then just get it, if we could divide and conquer and get them done and get out of their way so they can go with their.
that's just a suggestion to be able to hit every place in that day.
So then the next motion would be that we would take Dr. McDarris's suggestion and visit all of the elementary schools in the morning with 1 board member attending each of those meetings, and in the afternoon.
One no more than 2.
1 no more than 2, and in the afternoons, having
Same thing.
Brevard Middle, Brevard High, Rosman Middle, Rosman High, Davidson River
That's all.
as the 3 remaining meetings to happen. All of these meetings to happen on the 20th, and to have our community meeting at Brevard High on the 20th, co-joined with our regular scheduled board meeting.
Yep.
Attendance to be determined at a later date.
Correction. Correct.
And point of clarification, for the board meeting that evening, are you talking about the community meeting part would be before that, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
Was that a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, clarify for me, how many meetings in the afternoon?
3, plus the community meeting prior to the board meeting.
But for a board member, you have 3 that day.
Right.
You've got one of the elementaries, one of the choices in the afternoon, and then,
The committee meeting, the community meeting and the board meeting. So
So the
4
after-
separate meetings,
For the afternoon meetings,
Potentially.
we'd be clustering Brevard High and Brevard Middle together,
correct,
Rosamond High, Rosamond Middle together.
Correct.
And Davidson River as a separate entity.
correct,
Okay.
So that was a motion.
yes.
I would
there a
second
second?
that.
Is there further discussion with that motion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All that, no? Okay. Yes.
So the superintendent will work on a schedule based on the school's availability, and we will work on a communication that the superintendent can send out to every single employee in the district. It says these are listening sessions that are being made available. You can work through representatives. If you feel like you want to provide personal contact, you can email, all the things we've talked about.
And if for any reason you're unable to attend the session at your school, you're welcome to come to one of the other
Come
sessions,
to one of the
because it is a teacher workday.
That's right. So now you only have 6 more meetings to now try to schedule, and that is the Rosman community meeting and then these other community sites.
I think before we can do those, we would have to check with the community centers and see
It's when they're available.
when they're available.
And you can
Yeah.
ask the superintendent to do that as well.
Well, we're gonna be doing TC Henderson as opposed to the community center,
Right, but all the others are
correct.
community centers.
Where is the Duns Rock Community Center?
Halfway up
See,
276.
Where?
See off. See off up Conisty.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember. I was kept here, where's that place? Yeah.
So.
No, that's the Seoff Community Center, Dunn's Rock.
Dunn's Rock is on the right as you go up the mountain.
Right,
down off the hill,
Yep.
off the middle hill.
just as you start up past Mud Daubers, the next road to the right goes down to Dunn's Rock, I believe.
Yeah, you got
I remember that from putting up campaign signs in the past.
So then instead of choosing, or scheduling these meetings, we'll ask Dr. McDarris to find out when the centers are available, and then we will schedule these.
Right.
He can reach back out to us with when they're available, and we can let him know our availability.
Correct. We do need to make sure that we have a note taker because of the TC of the school system meetings, that we're gonna have to have somebody there.
And I'm recommending the superintendent try to figure out who can be a note taker at every
Correct.
single one of these
Yes.
meetings. Yeah. And again, not what people said by name, but the characteristics, the traits, and the issues that are brought up.
Can't be in everywhere.
It's not
Come on,
me
Jenny.
either. It's not me either. I'll have to ask for volunteers from staff.
And if we have
And
somebody
it could be
available,
somebody at the school, as long as we tell them what it is they're taking. And I think people feel good if they know what
The
this is.
the school part will be easier. The community meeting part,
You need somebody to go.
you
Yeah, you got a different.
might need somebody. Your sister might wanna come and take notes and tell her I volunteered, or I just.
Yeah, you'll have to work on that. You need a school district employee to take that.
Oh, no, you wouldn't want that. So are we set at the places we want to have the meetings?
we voted on that, right?
The one area that we haven't talked about is Cedar Mountain.
Well, that's what Dunn's Rock will
I think
cover.
Dunn's Rock covers that area.
Have fun. That doesn't happen, Tony.
But I think we did vote on that part, didn't we?
Yes.
No, you
No,
haven't
we
voted.
didn't,
No.
because we
Yeah. You were gonna
defeated
wait
the
to see
one
the
vote.
availability from the superintendent.
Okay,
But
we're
you
gonna-
can vote on the locations if you'd like to.
But we're
tonight.
happy with the locations, I think,
Yes.
except,
That's fine by
except for,
consensus.
Okay, but I thought Cedar Mountain was one of the locations.
Dunn's Rock
no,
covers.
Dunn's Rock.
Cedar
Okay, I'm
Mountain.
sorry.
Duns Rock is separate from Cedar Mountain.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, yeah, but it's the general area. I mean, because, and I just think, and I may be wrong, I may be completely wrong, but I think if your children, your grandchildren, you're a community member, and the people attend whichever one of our schools, you may want to come to that school meeting rather than come to the community. I don't have a problem going to the community, it's not what I'm saying. I just think you're gonna be committed enough to drive a little bit to come
Maybe.
to the community center or to the schools.
Well, the school meetings are for staff only.
Not Brevard and
No,
Rosman and TC
not the
Henderson.
community meetings at
Community,
the schools, but the
yes.
school meetings are for staff and
Exactly.
faculty only.
Yes,
Now, the
And-
last thing I'll just mention real quick, I think, again, your model of, the community meetings we're going to notice. But I'll just point out to you that all of you are going to be there presumptively on February 20th for your board meeting and to hear from the Brevard broader community. So you might want to make sure that all of you can be at that Rosman, so you have 2 meetings that are available to the community that all of you are dedicated to attend.
I think
out of
that's it.
fairness. If all of you are going to be at Brevard, all of you should be at Rosman.
I agree completely.
Within the community centers, it'll just have to be who can make it.
And if there's 2 that can commit and 1 that thinks they can, as
Well,
long
and
as,
again, we'll notice the community meeting, so it could be more than 2.
Right.
We'll just notice them all.
so if there's 2 that commit, but another one says, I'd like to if I can, then that'll be fine.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
intent is to have all these meetings completed.
And that's a good point. You are not going to the schools to engage in a dialogue with the staff. You're going to the schools to hear what they have to say, right?
Right.
And you're there as an observer, really. It's a faculty meeting. It's being facilitated by the superintendent. It's their opportunity to speak and pull together. You'll have a note taker. So you're really just there as an observer for those faculty meetings. But these community meetings are true community meetings.
So, since we might not all be there, so let's discuss for just a minute the format of the meetings, the community meetings, in particular. So, I think there needs to be, the same thing needs to be said to begin each meeting.
Correct, and we'll come up with a script for you there that says, again, this is our chance to get input. It's not, an opportunity for dialogue. We're not here to hear personnel complaints. We're not here to hear about student matters. We want to know the issues that you believe are the most critical for hiring a new superintendent. What kind of characteristics you want to see, what kind of traits, and what are the issues that you think are facing your community, your schools, the Transylvania County schools. We're here to listen. And I've always recommended that at a community meeting like this, you give people 5 minutes. They won't use 5 minutes. 5 minutes is a long time, but 5 minutes says to people, we value what you have to say. And what you find too is that it will start to dwindle down. People feel like everything's been said. So, but we've always said you should offer 5 minutes, and that hadn't been a problem. And you stay as long as you need to, because you're there to listen.
Everybody okay with that basic format?
Now, the staff
And-
meetings, I would recommend you let the superintendent have some dialogue with the principals about how to format that. I think it would be nice for them to come up with their list in advance, have someone present that to you, and then in line with what Mr. Weiner said, then the principal could say, okay, anybody else want to speak? We have a board member here. Does anybody else want to add anything? I think that would be the way to handle that. And I think your superintendent and your principals can handle that.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that our expectation should be that we should have the survey available to them at these meetings.
Hand copies of the survey, that's what you're saying.
And online radio.
Links,
so, yeah.
links to QR code here, scan, boom, off you
Sure.
go.
Ms. Lovett, if they finalize this on February 5th?
Yes,
Sixth.
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 How soon can it be posted on SurveyMonkey?
Okay.
Next day.
February 6th, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah, we would post the survey on the 7th, the very next day.
Yeah, so you can have it ready on the 7th, okay.
Yes, sir.
so that is all
Well-
that,
There wouldn't be any reason, once it's available, we could go ahead and pass it out to the teachers and the staff.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
with teachers and staff, you kind of send out an email and give them the
Ought to be
link.
done right away.
Yeah, you don't need to hand out paper copies with your teachers and staff because they can fill it out
Yeah.
on their school computer.
Yeah, and you gotta realize the more paper copies you have,
That's,
the
don't want to go. there.
compiling the data is, let's
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
encourage
I'm not-
SurveyMonkey a lot.
Yeah, I'm not interested in having paper copies, more than a few copies
Right.
available.
That's why you get the fabulous salary and the
Yes.
clothing allowance. anonymous.
And they are anonymous. I mean, nowhere does it ask you who you are. These are anonymous other than your association. Do you want, because again, I personally don't know of anyone, we may need to find out. You want it available in Spanish too, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so we need to work on that. You need to be, if you'll get with your folks and find out what interpretive services we might already have through the school district, and if not, we can look for something.
It's hand translation.
You have folks locally that do that?
They do when they're not meeting with the students during the day.
Right, I know. So be thinking about that. We may want to, we might actually have to have somebody do that as a paid service, which is
And
fine.
you could post this to Fiverr and get it done for $25.
What's the website?
Fiverr,
Fiverr? Okay. we'll look into that.
FIVERR.com.
Okay. And it does translations.
They do everything.
Okay.
I'm having a 65,000 record data set ETL'd. So there's somebody up there that'll translate. You could even have several people do it and compare them.
Okay,
I took 2 years of Spanish in high school, so I'm not going to be the one to compare it.
Yeah, my Spanish would get me arrested, not out of jail. That was my dad always said.
I once told a cab driver I needed to go to the ferry, and he took me to the USS Guadalcanal. So there you have it.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not a Marine.
okay, so that was all the items on our agenda. So if there's nothing from anyone else,
Oh, I just wanted to ask Kimsey if he knew the source of his wisdom thought of the day.
I do not.
I think it's a
Okay.
Michael
I
Jackson
do-
It's
song.
I do
Michael
not.
Jackson's Man in the Middle, written by 2 other songwriters, but
Is that where that came from?
that's where that came from.
I got it from something else I was reading, and there was a thing and whatnot, but
Well, when you get home, ask Google or Alexa to play it for you. It's a good song.
I don't,
Right, and Ms. Hunter and I were
I don't
discussing, he
discriminate.
probably stole it from Aristotle.
I don't discriminate.
do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We will consider ourselves adjourned. Thank you.